Well,
hello everyone, it's me, Tom Bauer, and we are back for another live Q&A session with Barrows and Forrester. I'm covering Birmingham property news today, and actually, despite us being two separate locations, we are streaming live from the Jewellery Quarter. So we've got myself on today, and we've also got James Forrester, MD of Barrows and Forrester Property Group and Stripe Homes. How are you doing, James?
very well. How are you, Tom?
Yep, doing very well. Rushed around, done my hair. No makeup required. Let's get it.
Sun's out. Jewellery Quarter's looking absolutely stunning. Just had a little walk there down by St Paul's and the Canal. Fantastic. Obviously, a lot of people are out now making the most of the sun, doing a little sunbathing around the square, but they're legally allowed now. So, yeah, enjoy.
I know, legally sunbathing. No. So we did one of these on Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock, and we said we were going to do a follow-up in a couple of weeks. The government then decided overnight, it was about 9-10 o'clock at night, to drop some legislation out there that estate agencies and the property sector can get back to business. So, James, what was your initial reaction to Wednesday's announcement?
Thank God. Obviously, on a business point, obviously it's been, if you think about it for estate and letting agents more than anything else, we've had the Brexit scenario going on for 3.5 years where, things have been okay, but people have sort of been wondering what's going to happen. As soon as it was all decided and there was a bit more consistency in the marketplace and, people knew exactly what was going to happen, it started to pick up dramatically. And then we get hit with COVID-19, and it's not nice. A lot of people have lost lives on this. And I think most of us are all touched one way or the other, we either know people or we're close to people that unfortunately have either caught it or unfortunately have lost their lives. But we live in a capitalist world. I'm quite controversial on my comments, and a lot of people don't like it when it is that. And my parents are the same. They said they're not going to leave until there's a vaccine. There might never be a vaccine. That's the issue here. It might be the case. You just have to become immune to it. You can get the flu jab every year, and you can still get the flu. It just gives the antibodies to try and help you become immune. But look, first impressions were, thank God, we can start to get back to normal. You're waiting for the small print. Don't forget, we get the announcement, which was sneakily dropped in late at night on legislation government website, but there was no real detail to it. So it was like you can go off and do viewings, but there was no detail behind it, and we had to wait the following day. Once that's happened and I've read it and I've gone through it, of course, the next thing that hits me, and it's the most important bit, is safety for the staff, about the working conditions, obviously in an office. It's not outdoors, it is in an office. On our point, on the estate and letting agent side of it, and then also for our customers as well. And our clients, and that could be people who are selling the houses, people viewing the houses, what about their safety as well? And, it took a day, from the announcement, 2 days from the announcement, a day from the detail coming out to really get into it and then say, right, are we as a company going to open the doors and start moving forward? We've never been shut. We've obviously been open, as in we'll take the calls and we'll do video chats and everything, but physical office presence and viewings, unless you were a key worker and the property was unoccupied, then everything was closed down. So that was great. On a construction point, well, the construction workers, most companies took the decision themselves to close, and they're outdoors, but they're all coming back now. And we have to look at it. Look, if you've got houses being built, they need people to sell them. And who sells them? Estate agents. If people are Partexing their homes, developers need estate agents to go and value them and get them sold as well as part of the deal. And it needs to get the market moving. The housing market is one of the biggest, within the UK, in regards to for the tax man. And don't forget, they need to start generating revenue very quickly at the moment. It's great that, people can be furloughed or, people are being well looked after business-wise with grants and bounce-back loans, etc. This money's got to be, apart from the bounce-back which you pay back, but grants and furlough payments are going to have to be paid back somewhere. It's not going to be free money. We are, as general public, we're going to be footing a bill for a long time. And if I look at it, what was it? It was 8.4 billion, I think, in 2008, stamp duty raked in to Her Majesty's government. It's a lot of money. And they want to start to get that property market moving. So yeah, look, thank God we're back. But as a company and as obviously MD of Barrows and Forrester, it's baby steps to get back. So officially, we will open the doors on Monday. And obviously, with the right things, markings are all on the floor. It's strictly on an appointment-only basis. And obviously, within the viewings, we have various policies that we've now put in place to start progressing forward and start to get back to normal.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into those in a bit more detail a bit later on. But in terms of that, you've touched on some interesting points there around the 8.4 bill for stamp duty. Obviously, I know Robert Jenkins announced that about 450,000 sales were put on hold. 300,000 tenancies were then placed on hold as well in terms of people who were coming to the end of theirs. Why do you think property and particularly estate agency has been one of the sectors that's been pushed forward first ahead of some others compared to on the high street?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And if you look at it, we don't really fall into any of the categories. You know, estate agency is not retail. You know, so obviously if you're going to do a retail ban, then you're doing it across the board. You can't say, well, you know, clothes shops can open, but these retail can't. You know, supermarkets are separate to retail within the government guidelines. So, you know, it was interesting when I was watching it and I thought, well, where is it? You know, I actually did tweet out going, I'm a bit confused because we're not exempt or we're not non-exempt either. So what are we for the estate agent sector? I think they've done it because one, they need to get it back. They think obviously the estate agents can control it quite well, you know, in regards to this. You know, you don't all need your staff in the office all at once, and that's certainly something we won't be doing as a company. Is everyone rushing straight back from that? It'll all be done in stages, you know, to make sure it's as safe as possible. And it's very easy to, you know, put the policies in place that pretty much were already there. Look, you know, if you're going to go and do a viewing and the property is occupied, so we have to look at occupied properties here, because if they're not occupied, then there's not as much risk to it. So you can still go in, you know, unoccupied. You can go and see the properties. Then they can be obviously fully deep cleaned after, or anti-bac down, whatever's been touched, you know, to make sure that they've been fully disinfected, you know, after a viewing. The issue comes in is when the property is occupied and people want to start viewing. But if you were doing a viewing of property normally and there was no COVID-19, you would be asking the people who live there, the owners, to leave the property. 9 times out of 10, you don't want the sellers in the property when you're showing your buyers around. There's various reasons. Everyone's got their own opinion on it. Personally, mine is because buyers, and we're all buyers of property, we're very critical when we look at property. And if you're selling a home that you've may have lived in 10, 12, 15 years, you're quite emotional to it. And what you don't want to be hearing is someone going, I don't really like that, and I don't like that, and I'd change this, and I would change that. And it can upset sellers because they forget they are selling the property, and that's somewhere that they've made their home for quite a long time. So all we would do is, you know, it's an easy control. We can ask people to leave the home while we're doing that. Naturally, we keep the same distance, the 2 meter distance that obviously is the guidelines here. For hands to be washed or disinfected as soon as entering the property, as well as leaving the property as well. And, you know, you just ask for doors to be open from the sellers. So effectively, the buyers don't need to touch anything when they're wandering around the house itself, and they can have a view. Naturally, it's great if we can do the virtual viewings first, you know, when we don't have to go into property. But realistically, people will not buy property unless they go and view it, you know, altogether. So I think that's one of the reasons why they're bringing it back. We can probably control it a lot easier. You know, you're out and about now. I was hit with a question yesterday, and I know it's been going around on social media, and people are going, well, you know, I can let strangers in my house, but I can't go and see my grandma or granddad or my mum and dad and things like this. And, you know, it's sort of somebody made a comment on one of my blogs and was just like, I think it's a bit stupid that you're going back to work and, you know, you could be the cause of spread and everything. And like I said, well, you've got to look at the science behind it, you know, from this. And you know, like a lot of people, you glue to news. I pick up different websites, different reports that people are putting out. And one of them was what struck me a bit easier. If you went to see your mum and dad or your grandma or your granddad or loved ones that you've not seen for a long time, the chances of you staying that 2 meter apart entering their property is going to be very difficult. You're going to want to go and hug them. We're human beings. You're not going to leave in an hour, you know, or 10 minutes, you know, you're going to be there for a whole day, and that potentially could spread more risk. If we're doing a viewing on a property, then it's for a limited time. And also you're not coming in direct contact, as in the owners, with the actual people viewing the property. A lot of the risk is actually coming to the estate agent side. But if we all take the relevant precautions, then it can be done in a very safe manner. And naturally, if obviously things are unoccupied, then obviously it makes life a lot bit easier. Apologies for that. Just someone was walking past waving there. Obviously, in the office. So always like to be polite.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really interesting point there in terms of particularly with who I can see and who I can't at the minute. Obviously, everyone wants to see their family and friends first versus work colleagues because you've got more of an emotional attachment to them. But I think the rule of thumb I've been having with people when trying to explain it is let's make it nice and simple. You've got 5 work colleagues, you've got 5 members of family, and you've got 5 friends. So without COVID-19, you would see those 15 people regularly without any disruption. Now, if we go and do that now with where we are going to see a massive spike. There is going to be a second wave at any point and at some point anyway, but we're trying to reduce that second spike and again, ensure that we keep as many out of hospital as possible. So by not allowing you to see your friend or one family member and 1 friend, which is the policy at the minute, that's 2 people, plus your 5 work colleagues is 7. So you've already halved how many people you come into contact with there. And that's where we are at the moment.
Absolutely. And safety's priority, than anything else. And it's something that I'm quite cautious of, for staff as well as our clients. And as I said, clients are people if they're selling or they're even booking in the viewing to come and view. But as well, we can't let the virus be the issue. I'm a big believer of this, altogether. I think the difference is this is my second pandemic really that, as a grown up, I've understood more than anything else. The difference is we've had draconian measures put in, rightly so. If they were put in quick enough or not, different story, different conversation. It will happen then again, and it is going to happen again within probably the next 10 years. History is going to repeat itself. There will be another virus. And we'll probably go on lockdown again. And it's interesting this because then people are thinking about their current living situation now. Is their property big enough? So if this happens again, is the property that they're living in far too small? Altogether, and they need to upgrade. So that might mean that they want to sell their property and they want to start looking for a bigger property. They want to get the builders in, get an extension built. They might want to get into the countryside. I do see a big uptake now on people that will want to be buying property closer to bigger green spaces so they can get out more. You'll also find, unfortunately, people who are not getting on anymore in relationships and they'll go their separate ways. And you might find that properties do end up getting sold, because of divorces moving forward. And even if we took all of this out of it, people's lives have changed in the last 7 to 8 weeks. People have spent more time as families. People are getting at it. I'll be honest, it's been great the last couple of days when I've been able to myself, obviously personally, get back into the office and obviously coming in, and I've seen families out on their bikes, enjoying it and walking, when I've done my hours exercise and I've seen people and I've just thought, wow, it's really good now to see that because I think it was personally missing. We'd lost. It seems from probably when I grew up, to be honest, that was still very much ingrained. And then it seems that there's been a bit of a gap where it's not really happening as much. We're too busy in our lifestyles to spend time as family. And I think now, it's come back again, altogether. And we're going to see a big change in the property market. Nothing's really going to happen, I don't think, when we're all back to normal. I get emails like a lot of people going, property investors have come back in force and, all these big sales lines. Look, no one's going to rush in at the moment. Everyone's still going to be a bit tentative, but people are going to be starting to look around now. You've got a lot of properties on hold as a company. We've got stuff on hold that we've not been able to progress because we're waiting for surveyors to come back and everything with the contracts. Now, obviously, we're waiting for the announcements that they will start to come back quite quickly, and that's what's been coming out today on the days that they will return. Again, photographers coming back as well to make sure that we can get the right marketing done for the properties. So it all seems to start from very much, I would say, from next week. We're just going to see step by step. It's all going to start to creep back, from this and just get moving. And we have to get back to normality. That is one of the key things. And that's one of the reasons why I think they've chose the property sector. And obviously, it's due to stamp duty as well. Let's not hide around this fact. People don't want to talk about it. It will be because of money, without a shadow of a doubt. That one of their biggest thing is we need that money to start paying down the tax burden.
Yeah. And I think you've half touched upon it in terms of my next question, but who do you think, particularly in this short-term period, and I think as the market becomes a bit more normal and returns where it is, we'll get the usual suspects, but who do you think will be looking to move in this short term? What type of clients do you think the sector is going to expect over this next few months?
I think it's a difficult one. Look, I don't have the crystal ball. I think if you've not been affected by work too much, and I don't mean if you've been put on furlough, but if you haven't unfortunately lost your job, because there is people losing their job due to this. So I think if financially that you are doing okay, I think the first time buyer market will start to bounce back quite quick. I think the developers will, I've seen it today, Bovis Homes, 105% value of the property. If you're going to part X. So, I think the new developments will do quite well. There'll be a lot of offers that will come out. I don't think it will necessarily change on price, but they are going to change offers to attract people, and that will be for people who want to upscale, and also for first-time buyers. I think that's where the biggest market's going to be moving back from this. And then it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting times. Are prices going to go down? I don't think so. I've read it in the news, we're expecting big price drops. I don't think we're going to get big price drops at all. Everyone said Brexit is going to be a price crash. We never had a price crash, from this. The only reason we will get a property crash is if lending becomes unavailable. And if you can't typically finance the property, then people don't buy. You end up seeing prices dropping and dropping. Lending is still there. The difference is they're waiting for surveyors to go back as well. So I think the major finance lenders, or the banks, if you want to call them, they're going to come back in force as well with some great offers, to attract people. Don't forget this quarter, new homes, banks are going to have, are not earning a lot of money. They're going to have some serious warnings on them. You look at the stock market, every house builder right up there straight away. As soon as that announcement was made, shares were right up. And we've got to get the economy going. And I think that's where you're going to find it. People who want to upgrade their house, first-time buyers, that's going to be the market to watch.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think as well, it's all about lending, and the demand is still there. People still need places to live. So we have a shortage in this country in terms of house building.
I'll just pick you up on that. So it's interesting. So the UK has a target of, 300,000 properties a year to build. I think we were on track for about 241,000. And the stats are about to come out in the next week or so. We're not going to hit the target again. We are going to have a housing shortage once again. At the moment, all that will be getting hid because of the terrible news and the loss of life. But we are going to have a housing shortage again. And that, again, will start to boost house prices. I said on a podcast only a few weeks back, look at Q4. End of this year is when we're going to expect to see prices start to increase again.
So bricks and mortar are the new toilet paper is basically what you're saying.
You can get anti-bac quite easily now. So that's all changed, and you can get toilet roll. But I think property's always been one of the safe bets. Yes, it can go up and down, but it's a physical asset, from that. And if you're buying a property for yourself, you're going to pay what you want for it. If you want that house and you want it badly, you will pay what you need to get for it. And that's how the property market works. A house is only worth as much as somebody is willing to pay for it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that is the case. And obviously just going through the white paper in a bit more detail. So obviously what we can do now is we can conduct virtual viewings. That's been ongoing anyway for those who have been open. You can conduct the physical viewings. What you can't do, which again was industry practice beforehand, you can't have the open houses. You can't drive your clients to a viewing, i.e. being in the car together. And again, you should not be conducting any viewings if anyone has symptoms or is self-isolated. Obviously, from our perspective, we qualify our clients, don't we, James, beforehand, before they see any properties. And I think this is something that's going to be part of it now that's embedded as part of our practice. Yeah,
we do. And you've picked up a really important point there, because even though now it might seem quite prominent that, surely you should be asking them questions. The difference is if someone's just ringing up and going, look, I want to book a viewing, I've been looking at this property for weeks, and, you're having a great conversation, they're qualified, you can get excited about it. It's not just about the seller asking these questions that, are they at high risk? That's another big one. Or if they're at high risk, and they're part of high risk categories, you can't be doing viewings at all. It's just too risky for them. It's as simple as that. Have they had symptoms? Are they showing symptoms, etc.? They've got to be asked to the seller. But more importantly, you've got to be asking it to the viewers, the buyers. And don't forget, this is the same for people looking to let properties as well, and renters. So it's the same for everybody. But these questions have to be asked for both sides, not just the ones who are paying your bill, which is the landlords and the sellers. It needs to be all around. And I think estate agents now have got to be red hot on this. They need to be making sure that whoever's answering the phones or booking in viewings, that these questions are being asked. I would actually go one step further, and I would actually have it in writing. So when you're confirming your appointments, which we do, but obviously by email as well as text, I think you have to put them answers on there as well to say, you have confirmed to the following, yes, no to the questions, and ask them to reconfirm as well. Safety is really important. We can get back to normal here, and we can get houses sold, and we can do the viewings, but let's just not forget about the safety element at the same time.
Yeah, and that comes to the final point, really, of this live that we've got today. You touched upon it earlier in terms of what are you doing as a business owner, as someone who works in a estate agency, who obviously has staff, you have buyers, sellers, vendors, etc., and you've got all the different companies attached to that as well, such as surveyors. What are you doing as a business to be able to ensure people are staying safe?
Look, first of all, it all starts from the office more than anything else, because we can still have staff working from home. Yep. Like I've said, we will gradually phase staff back into work. We can still do virtual viewings, and I think a lot of people will still like to do that. If your estate agent's doing good marketing, then they should find it quite easy. If they're poor at it and they can't take decent photos to begin with, then you probably want to be changing estate agents, because there is some poor quality marketing out there at the moment. What we then need to be doing is making sure it's an appointment-only basis coming into the office. So it must be booked in. Relevant markings are in place. You're gonna be asked to anti-sanitize as you come into the office from that, and also when you're leaving as well. We will actually go one step further in the office, where we will be using face masks, obviously within a closed environment. Obviously, if people are coming into it, and we will always be more than 2 meters apart within the office for where people do sit. We've carefully looked at the configuration to make sure that can happen. In regards to then going out to viewings, it very much follows very similar procedures. First of all, the sellers, the viewers, the tenants, etc., whoever it might be, are going to be asked very relevant questions, very easy to understand. Again, high risk. Have you been suffering from conditions? Have you had to self-isolate, etc.? We will then send out a very quick guide just to help people who are going to be in the property. For example, for it to be cleaned down. I'm sure people are doing it anyway. It's on the top of everyone's agenda, but we'll just enforce it just to make sure that it is clean. As we turn up to the viewing, again, we will ask the people who are occupying the property to leave the property while we do the viewing. Less people in, and if they don't want to go for a walk around the block and they've got a garden, go into the garden for a while. If it's lovely and it's nice, then obviously, get some chairs, go and sit in there, and let us do our job, what you're effectively paying us to do, which is the key thing. We will be providing gloves for people coming to the viewings, and it's a maximum of 2 people. So, unfortunately, if you've got 2 adults and 2 kids, only the adults are going to be allowed to come into the property. So please make, if one person's got to come in and then go back to watch kids and the other person go in, that's fine. We can try and accommodate it as good as possible. But we will be able to provide face masks and gloves. We will ask people, obviously, to, again, anti-sanitize before they go into a particular property. We won't be asking them to touch anything as well. We're making sure that they don't touch anything. So we want people to make sure that doors are open to all the rooms, so it's easy access. We will ask the viewers not to be, normally you find people open cupboards and wardrobes and stuff. Look, everyone's a bit nosy. We all want to see what's in there, and obviously it'll be to see what space there is. We're just nosy. We like to see what's there. We'll be asking people not to do that, and we'll be keeping a very close eye on them, obviously with a 2 meter distance as well. From that. And upon leaving the property, it'd be exactly the same. Again, to anti-sanitize coming out, disposing of masks and the gloves correctly from that. And then we would ask the people occupying the property, again, still to go and clean, handles, for example, anywhere that may be touch points. If we have noticed somebody touch something by accident, then obviously we will report that straight away.
Yeah, and then moving along the process, then as we start to get offers in, etc., and maybe we have things like conveyancers, or maybe someone has to send a tradesperson round, etc. What are the steps that people need to follow there?
So the same, get in contact with ourselves. Obviously, if it's progressing as a sale, then obviously it'll progress in a normal manner, and a lot of that will be able to be done digitally as well. So that's obviously one of. So the quicker we secure an offer for your house, then the quicker less people will be going round. If you need tradespeople to come round, so that's to get energy performance certificates. Landlords soon will have their electrical performance certificates coming into effect. So we're not too far away when that becomes mandatory. Altogether, and surveyors coming around, or any general maintenance. Then again, we're making sure that the companies that we recommend altogether, that they've got relevant procedures in place as well. And they're following obviously government guidelines, and we're also asking them what are they advising clients when they turn up, so we can pre-warn our clients to make sure that they're ready, so nothing's a shock and everyone's well aware what's going to happen. Again, you've got to keep the distance. Again, you've got to be washing your hands. It's very, very important.
And then finally, coming towards the end of the process, so we're coming up to completion and exchange. What steps do people need to be taking there?
So the key thing, obviously coming on exchange is going to be getting all your documents ready for what your conveyancing solicitor is going to be asking for. A lot of that's going to be done digitally, which is the key thing, more than anything else. Obviously, you'll be able to be on top of it a lot more, probably easier at the moment. Obviously, if you've got time in your hands, the key thing then is obviously moving companies. Again, use ourselves. Let us recommend the people that we know have got good procedures in place from this as well. And again, coming to completion, look, we haven't done a completion yet since this has come in. It's only been 2 days. So, it's going to be another few weeks before we see our first completion. I do actually believe, I think our first one will be this Friday. Tomorrow, we're expecting one to go through, which I think is one of the quickest post COVID-19 come out of the, estate agents back to work, if you want to look at that. And hopefully that will be all going through tomorrow. Again, it'll be the key thing. Use your estate agent, to help you here. Hand over the keys to your estate agent. If you do not want contact, let them then start to make sure that they're sanitizing keys, everything, to hand over to the new owners, because they will have procedures in place. So yes, you might have to do a little bit more work and a little bit more guidance on it, but let the estate agent earn their money, and make sure that they're keeping you safe as well as keeping the new owners safe for your property. And again, if you're going to be picking them up from the office, which is normal to get your keys, again, don't just turn up to the office, and that's for ourselves. And I'm sure I could speak for many other estate agents in the West Midlands. They will all be working on an appointment-only basis. So it's not the case of turning up, phone ahead, book a time in, be very clear about what you're coming to the office for, so then obviously they can prepare.
Fantastic. So yeah, I think we've got a lot out of that, half an hour or so. Thank you, James, for joining us. I've been from Birmingham Property News, and we've been covering COVID-19. The property market is now open. So thank you very much for joining us on this live stream. There will be more live streams coming up over the next few weeks, so make sure you tune in for that. And also make sure you check out birminghampropertynews.co.uk for all the latest news and developments in the local property market. I've been Tom Bauer, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Good afternoon.